Good afternoon. You're all very welcome to Ballysallagh House and Gardens. We are here situated 4 miles north-east of Kilkenny, a medieval city in the southeast of Ireland. It's the seat of the Dukes of Ormond. We were chosen to do the House of the Month for the European Historic Houses Association because we, the owners, Geralyn and my husband Kieran White, won an award recently just before Christmas. What was the award? It was a Heritage Award presented by the Irish Historic Houses Association in conjunction with Robert O'Byrne, and it was to support our heritage restoration projects. We were very privileged to be the first in Ireland to win that award. We've been invited to present this story to you and many others. I suppose the best thing to do is to go back and tell you when we first saw the house, how we bought it, and how we went on to establish it in terms of restoration and conservation, and finally how we developed the gardens that you see around. In 1987 we had 3 small children. We had no intentions of buying a historic house, and a small ad appeared on the local newspaper which caught our attention. So we followed it up and thought, oh, the ad offered a true Georgian house for sale on 1 to 10 acres for 4 miles from Kilkenny city. True Georgian houses rarely come up for sale, so we decided to follow up on it. We looked up the research on the house and on the architectural merit of the house, and it was considerable. There were a number of publications in a number of books. We had a particular interest in architecture and in material culture, archaeology, and we said we'll give it a go. So we came and viewed the house, and whilst it was in its sins, isn't that correct, Kieran? Whilst it was in its sins, we think we fell for it more with our heart than with our head. So just to show you the details on the house today, you can see it has a basement which is considered the plinth on which the house sits. The windows on the basement are smaller than the windows on the first floor and the second floor. The steps lead up to the first floor, which is the piano nobile. The break front pediment here, which holds the facade together and gives a great interest to the front of the house, houses a Diocletian window in the pediment and a wonderful door case which is crowned with a Gipsian surround, a stone Gipsian surround. When we bought the house, the lower windows were barred up and the house didn't look as it is today. This is a result of 30 years of restoration. In fact, it was quite a sad story, because the chimneys, first of all, the outer coarse plaster was shedding its coat. The chimney stacks were clamped together, and they had ingress water coming through into the attic, into the interior. There were 2 baths in the attics to hold the raindrops. The skylights were leaking. The windows on the lower floor and on the return were barred up with defensive bars and had very rudimentary plumbing and very rudimentary electrical. It had been probably electrified during the rural electrical schemes during the late 40s. But in the meantime, but it has the early feature of the ha-ha, which is a sunken fence outside here, which I suppose disassociates the house from the parkland, and it's a wall. It's a wall which we can show you later on.
An invisible wall.
It's an invisible wall. So now it's just started to rain, and we want to welcome you all inside. We've just arrived in from the rain, and you may have spotted a date stone at the side of the door of 1722, which would indicate a building date for the house. However, when you come into the entrance hall, you can see that there was some intervention, and some books have suggested that it happened in 1810. And this, we feel, is one of the examples of the new movement or the new ideas of 1810, where the partition here and this piece were commissioned for the hall. This piece is one that takes a lot of attention when visitors arrive. It's made from a light wood, which is very soft wood, which was very fashionable for the time. And the whole theme on the cabinet is the fête champêtre, or the celebration of the outdoors, the villa, and definitely following on from the idea of Repton's garden. It's a very narrow cabinet, and the two doors are represented by like two cartwheels. On the exterior here, on the fluted columns, they're crowned with acanthus leaves. And within the cartwheel, we see the hub of the wheel here is a strawberry. And the spokes of the wheel, we see the digitalis plant, or some would say the Prince of Wales feather, which would indicate it may have some leanings toward the Hepplewhite style. On top, we see the dancing figures here on the two exteriors, the cartouches and the scrolls, which are sort of looking towards the Rococo style. What's fascinating about the top layer here on the moulding is, rather than dental moulding, which we would normally expect to find, we see strawberries. So here we see the motifs of fruit and foliage, gardens and play outdoors. So this piece was definitely commissioned, designed. We don't know if it's from a pattern book. We think it possibly could have been, because there were so many pattern books flourishing at the time. But we see here how on the partition, how they've used a sunburst to square off the corner between the wall and the fanlight. And the fanlight is echoing the very same theme that we have here on the on the spokes. On the wheel itself, it's beaded, and these beads are replicated here on the fanlight. So Kieran, do you want to talk about the stairs?
The stairs, we reckon, is from 1810 as well, and it has a Cuban mahogany rail, and it was inserted in the return of the house. The house is basically T-shaped, so this is the leg of the T.
Okay, so we'll remove. We're going to take you into the drawing room. And now we're entering the drawing room, and I want to tell you about a pair of portraits here. They were discovered at auction about 10 years ago, and we were very lucky to discover that this was John Doyle of Usher's Island in Ballysallagh House and his wife Frances Savage, and they were subsequently exhibited at the Irish Georgian Society exhibition, exhibiting art in Georgian Ireland. So we're really thrilled to have these portraits back in Ballysallagh. Having secured them at auction, we took them home. Another piece of interest here is this Chippendale sofa. It was restored during the summer here, during the lockdown, and it was restored using horsehair. The horsehair, this type of restoration without any springs, ensures that the sculptural shape of the sofa is kept intact, and this is a mattress of horsehair, so this should retain its shape for quite some time to come. And now Kieran will tell you a little bit more about the curtain poles and the shuttering.
Right. Well, this room was reconfigured in mid-Victorian times, and you will note the fireplaces of Victorian style. The shutters are now at a splayed angle, but it still retains the base, which is a raised fielded pattern. So this leads us to think it may have been a panelled room originally. The curtain poles were here painted white. We just cleaned them up and polished them. And now we will move to the
dining room. Now we're in the dining room, and this room has a much earlier feel than the drawing room. This is possibly because of the shouldered architraving and the early chimney piece. And then again, the room has been furnished very appropriately.
During the restoration, we discovered the main beam supporting this entire wing was totally rotten and in imminent danger of collapse. So we could have lost the dining room, our nice morning room next door, 2 bedrooms overhead, and the kitchen. So what we did was we put in an RSJ, a very substantial RSJ, so this whole wing has been saved in its original form.
We were very lucky with that intervention, and otherwise we may not have been able to enjoy this morning room. So come along in with us. Well, this is my favourite spot because I love it. It's bright and it's cheery and it gets the sun in the mornings.
Well, my favourite part of this room is the early Kilkenny marble fireplace. And now we go and see the rest of the house. And now you can see we're in the kitchen, and here we have our kitchen table and chairs. They're made of Irish elm, and a local craftsman made them for us. We spend a lot of happy times here with friends and family, having meals, chats, dissertations, whatever. And you'll also see the beam I referenced earlier, that by installing this we saved the entire southern wing of the house from collapse. And now I think we'll bring it to our favourite spot in the house. So if you follow us this way, please.
Thank you all for coming on this journey with us today. Before I take you to our final room, I'd like to share some images with you. The facade, the rear of the property, the entrance hall, the cabinet, the drawing room, the dining room, the sunroom, the morning room, the butler's pantry, the upper gallery floor, and this is the current project, the room we're about to take you through right now, the study, this hall we're standing in right now, and this was our final restoration project which we completed in the 90s. So without further ado, let's pop into the study.
And now we are in our favourite room, where we are to be found most winter evenings. So there you have it. I hope you find some inspiration from what you have seen.